right, you guys, welcome to our first podcast for Total Archery Challenge called Life It's Better with a Bow, powered by Protekt. The reason we decided to do a podcast is to have a little bit better messaging out there instead of reading an email or trying to find it on the website, whatever the case. We decided this might be better if you're coming to an event or whatever and you want to get dialed in on what's happening there. You could listen to a podcast on your way to work, on your way to the event, the night before the event, while you're at your camp or your hotel, however that may work. So that is the reason for our podcast. Not only that, we get to meet some of the incredible sponsors that have been with us forever. This is our 11th year in business, so thank you everybody for that. We are here in Oklahoma, and as you can see, the water behind me is super high, 10 feet above normal. So there's going to be some changes happening in Oklahoma. That'll be in podcast number 2 that's going to come out here in a couple days. But anyway, so today's podcast is with Protekt. These guys are awesome. They've got some incredible products. We're super excited to have them on board, and we'll get diving into that with them. So listen to the podcast, see what's happening at each event. Some things are the same across the board, and some things change. Like here in Oklahoma, we're going to have some changes due to the level of the water. So without further ado, let's get into it with Protekt. All right, you guys, welcome to the Total Archery Challenge podcast brought to you by Protekt. And actually, as I mentioned earlier, this is our premier podcast, and we wanted to do it with you guys as the sponsor of the podcast. I've known about Protekt, and I've used some of your sunscreen and the lip block on, it's been probably 3 years now. Yeah. And I was a huge fan. So then we got to meet you, and we'll talk about how I did that. That was through Mark Carter, which we'll dive into. Who's not here? Mark.
It's okay. You had to get the other bearded guy.
Yeah. That's right. And so we're going to talk with these guys who we're here with. They'll introduce themselves, give us a little background on who you are and maybe how you're tied to Protekt. And then let's dive in a little bit into kind of the story of your business and what you guys are doing.
Easy.
So go ahead and introduce yourselves. And
yeah, Tim Duba. I'm one of the 4 co-founders at Protekt. And how I got here, I joined the Navy with one of our other co-founders, Nick Norris. He was my roommate, and bounced around to a bunch of different jobs after the Navy, got the entrepreneur bug, really started focusing on kind of what can keep us outdoors longer and turn into less of a job, more of a fun thing to do. And just lucky enough to meet up with a bunch of people I really respect, and they like what we were doing, and now we all get to work together, and Trevor's one of those people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Trevor, tell us a little bit about you for the guys that don't know you, though most probably do.
Some do, maybe they don't. Trevor Thompson, I was in the Navy for 9 years, got out. Then I've been working for Black Rifle for 5.5, 6 years or so. I think I met you guys through Carter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Carter connected a lot of us.
Carter and I got to be buddies. He's the one who got me on a snowboard, and
That's awesome.
working with Protekt. And it's just been great. Like, everybody that's with the brand and is involved in the brand is fantastic. I'm stoked to be able to be involved.
Yeah, I think we all got old and we got tired of like being forced to work with people we don't really want to work with.
I agree with that.
And I mean, it was a pipe dream. Nick and I had previous experience at a sunscreen company. We knew the military was reviewing sunscreen, maybe pulling the chemical-based stuff, and we kind of pitched that initial idea. Nick and I went to the Naval Academy. Nick is like Trevor, like top 1% athlete, chose to use his athletic prowess to become a SEAL. Truly like one of a kind. The guy, I think he did like 180 pull-ups in buds without coming off the bar. He's a freak.
It's okay. He's like this big, so he has a small advantage. I get it. It's fine.
So Nick and Mark Healy, our other co-founder, we got to talking about performance, and we all like to hunt. We all like to spend a lot of time outdoors. Nick's a rock climber. I grew up surfing. Healy obviously is a crazy surfer. And we talked a lot about what's going to keep us functional longer and what has been a placebo, because we tried everything growing up. We were all competitive athletes at some point. Nick is kind of a biohacker. I would put him up there with like the Hubermans of the world. He really geeks out on how he gets that extra percent. And what we came down to is the 3 things that really work for everyone is better sleep, better hydration, and a strong immune system. So that was how we developed the whole battery. Our co-founder, who's not on this camera, even though he's sitting over there, has a manufacturing background, and he helped us figure out how to do it differently. So the liquid formula was super hard to do, but that's how we ended up here. So yeah, really, like when you were using the sunscreen, this stuff didn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
And it took almost a year and a half to figure it out. So.
And for how simple it is, I mean, what's in there, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally an electrolyte blend. There's no sugar. We use a plant-based stevia, really expensive, really clean, so it doesn't give you those stomach issues like some of the other ones. But yeah, 10 to 2 to 1 electrolyte ratio, very tried and true. We went with 500 milligrams sodium because some of the brands that use the 1,000, it's just way too much unless you're doing a triathlon every day. So this is something you can take 2-3 times a day and not hit your sodium levels. But really, we went back, all of us served in the military, and the mantra there across all branches is keep it simple, stupid. And that's a foundational belief at this company.
It should be at all companies. It sure makes it a lot easier.
Yep.
So you guys have multiple products, though. You've got the hydration, but you also have immunity.
Yep.
And then there was one more that I was looking at.
We've got an energy.
That was it. Yep.
My personal favorite, and I think everybody tries these first. It's the obvious kind of gateway into Protekt is hydration. Everybody works out, everybody sweats. Our rest formula is super cool. It's completely natural, no melatonin, no habit-forming ingredients, and we developed it with several sleep specialists. Basically, all it does is get rid of anxiety and stress at night, so your brain doesn't jar you from good sleep. It allows you to slip into a deeper REM. And so, you ask any biohacker, any of the famous people that are really proven in that field, number one performance enhancer, not even up for debate, good sleep.
Yep.
That's where you do all your recovery, you digest your food better. If you get good sleep, you will perform your best.
I'm going to have to try that. I struggle with sleep. I was in an accident in 2004 and had severe brain trauma. And ever since then, I've suffered with sleep. And then, compounded on the different stresses of life, I really struggle. I do not sleep a lot. I'm probably in that 4 to 5 hour range a night, which is not enough.
It's not.
No, and what's important about that is like when you're going to sleep and then when you sleep and the length you sleep can sort of determine how much REM sleep you get. Mm-hmm. And the amount of REM sleep you get is hyper important because that's what's washing a lot of the toxins out of your brain. And that's what's washing a lot of that bullshit that's gone on during the day out. So if you're not getting that, you're living with that in your life and in your system.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And super interesting segue. Nick, my brother-in-law, who's one of the co-founders, he has, I think, 3 IED rollovers in Iraq and suffered a TBI. He's got a medical diagnosis from the military that he has a brain injury. Mark Healy, I don't know if he's been medically diagnosed, but nobody would argue with he's definitely suffered some brain injuries from big wave surfing. And that was a big part of the conversation is I've had tons of concussions. We talked about how that affects you, the brain fog, the inability to get good night's sleeps. Almost every job is stressful, right? Chronic stress is not just for the military. Like civilians suffer from chronic stress and don't even know it. And sleep, getting good sleep is the best way to heal your brain. And so
one of the only ways.
Yeah, and that was a huge part of. I mean, I love Nick. I always worry about my friend like Trevor. I worry about anybody who has a brain injury from the military. Because you do see parts of the brain go dark and certain behavioral characteristics come out and they're not themselves. And so when Nick was going through he was trying to solve like, hey, how do I, he calls it a life insurance policy on his brain, not psychedelic mushrooms, but medicinal mushrooms, things like that, hydration.
Like chaga, lion's mane.
Yeah, lion's mane especially.
Yeah. Okay.
And so as we mapped out this product line, a secondary, I would almost say a primary goal was for all of us who have played impact sports or have been in combat or whatever the deal is, how do we make sure that the Alzheimer's and the dementia and stuff like that, we can stave that off. So, the clarity pill that we make and the sleep formula, Nick calls that his insurance policy on, brain damage.
That's awesome. I'm in.
Yeah.
I've got to try it because I've tried a lot of different things, and it might work for me to help me sleep maybe for 3, 4, 5 days, and then I'm back to normal.
Yeah, and the melatonin products make you dependent. It's a hormone, so your body, you're telling your brain, stop producing this. Now you have to take that every day.
Yeah.
And if you don't use it properly, you can get real bad brain fog, wake up really groggy.
And there's some studies out there that point at consistent use of melatonin in large amounts as having a detrimental effect to hand-eye coordination.
Oh, okay.
Like there's athletic detriment that goes on if you become a habituated user of melatonin specifically. And that has to do with how you're getting to sleep and then how that REM is dealt with during sleep with the melatonin products.
Okay.
It can be tough. It can be really tough on people.
So that was our goal, was to come up with a really natural way to promote better sleep. And we're lucky we know some people in that space that were like, hey, we'll share our knowledge for free.
Right. And you have some really good test subjects too.
We do.
That aren't afraid to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like when you work with, for instance, for me, if I'm working with a partner and they're like, hey, what do you think? I mean, do I be honest here on certain things, or do I, right?
Yep.
But you're working with people where they can be honest and tell you, hey, that sucked.
Yeah,
That doesn't work.
Baker Levitt from Black Rifle, he's probably the most honest. Like, I've heard him get questioned by brands like, so what do you think? And he's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, right to their face. And so when he started saying how good this is, and he actually invested, he brought other investors to the table. He was like, I just believe in this. This battery works. It makes me feel better.
That's awesome. What? So I'm definitely going to do it because I do need to find something, especially during our tour.
Yep.
Where we literally are working 18 hours a day, and so those few hours you go home, you eat, and by the time you get to bed, you're in that 4 or 5 hour window that you can actually sleep.
Yep.
And so I need to get more involved in that. But that would be the same for early season hunting too.
It's awesome for hunting.
Because early season hunting, you're waking up way early, you're going to bed way late.
Yep.
And so that recovery process is a huge deal in order to maintain.
And you're not groggy.
That Hawaii hunt, everybody was like, I don't want to take it because I'm going to wake up and feel like shit because we're only getting 4 hours of sleep. And I mean, Trevor already was bought in, but some of the other people hunting with us were like, holy shit, I went down hard and then I got up totally clear-headed.
Yep.
That's awesome. And you could speak on that a little bit too. I'm assuming you use it when you're working in Alaska guiding.
Cole and I both do. And, you know, when you're dealing with like a spring bear hunt, right? You're getting up at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, and you're going to bed at 10:30, 11 p.m. because you're glassing. Like I'm up there to help the client get a bear or whatever we're looking for. If
there's light enough to see, then you're out there looking. If it's not working.
I can see it through my binos, I need to be looking for that bear.
Yep.
And Cole and I both take it at night because it's simple. It doesn't make you groggy. You don't crash. We can still wake up if something, goes bump in the night, which if you're in bear country, it's going to happen.
It absolutely will.
And you need to know if something's there. Doesn't mean it's scary, but you need to know. But that stuff works great. And we use the hydration too while we're out there. Both. Because you're working your ass off.
So let me ask you this on the rest part, what we're talking about. Is that something you can use daily?
Yes.
Or is there
non-habit forming?
Okay.
You can take 2, and it amplifies the effect, but it's not addictive in any way.
Okay.
So something like if you had a really stressful day, or like, how sometimes you travel and you get right out of the plane, you drive home, and then you got to go to sleep. Those are the perfect time to take more than one. I've seen people take a half and so we tell people like experiment with it. Start out with 1 pack, take it an hour before bed. There's a lot of things you can do to improve your sleep anyway. Like don't be on your phone, don't watch TV for the last hour before because that screws up your internal clock.
Stop alcohol 2 hours before.
Yep. But ultimately, if you take this an hour before bed, even if you break some of the other rules, you're going to go down hard.
Yeah.
It's L-theanine, GABA, and valerian root. They're all basically, they promote a calming effect in your brain. Yeah, that's all it's doing is telling you there's nothing to worry about. Stay asleep.
And the big one for me when I saw the ingredients on the rest was the GABA because that is hyper important for brain health and brain recovery. And it's something that most of us are missing in what we're getting before we go to sleep or during rest.
Okay.
It's a big deal. I take it like even if I'm not going to take the rest stuff, I have GABA like in pills that I take supplementary.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
at night.
Yeah. How often are you using rest? Do you typically use it just during, let's say show season or hunting season, or what's your program with that?
Or if I really need or if I know
Stressful
like, hey,
day or-
I want to go to sleep now, and I'm getting up. Like, I mean, right now I'm getting up 2 to 4 times a week to go tour, like dawn patrolling up in the mountains. I'm like, well, I need to get to sleep, and I'm kind of offsetting. Oh, this isn't usually my scheduled go to sleep time.
Gotcha.
So it helps me like just relax and go to sleep and get like a decent night's sleep before I know I'm going to have a large effort in the mountains.
Okay.
Or like during hunting season where, okay, cool. I was out on glass for 14 hours today. I'm wrecked.
Yeah.
I can't get to sleep because
Isn't
I'm
that
wired.
funny how exhausting that is?
But then you're wrecked.
Yeah.
And then you still need to get to sleep because, man, I'm there to help a client.
Yep.
Well, that's a lot of people don't know. You can sleep for 8 hours and get zero benefit.
Rest. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the recovery happens in REM. Like Trevor was saying, when you're in REM sleep, your body's incredibly efficient at getting rid of soreness and aching bones. And I mean, you can do a lot of recovery just with 2 hours of REM sleep. So you hear a lot of people, they're like, I go to bed at 9, I go to bed at 10. What's the problem? Why am I always so tired? It's like, cause you're staying in that shallow level of sleep. You're never hitting any recovery. It's almost as if you got no benefit.
Yeah.
So with the hunting, like what these guys do, him and Cole, it's an ass whooping. And if you only get 4 hours, 2 of those better be REM.
Yeah. They better be quality, you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, let's, what about, so you've got rest, which is a big one.
Yep.
Hydration actually, a lot of people talk about it, but what we see at our events, is the lack of hydration.
Yeah.
And we see more of it as we move west and our elevation's getting higher.
Big Sky. Saw a lot of real
Sky,
sunburnt
Colorado,
people.
Utah.
Yeah,
These
Especially
events,
people that don't live here.
right?
Yeah.
That's who we're talking about because we have a ton of people that are coming from these lower
travel.
elevation to travel to these western events, and we always try to stress the importance of hydration. And there's a part of it that we're really excited to have you on board just for that part.
Yep.
To kind of help educate and to really push home like how important it is, because even if you're not sweating when you're at those higher elevations, you have to hydrate more. And people don't realize that. And so why don't you guys talk to us a little bit about the importance of that as we go into it and about this product, because yours is liquid, not a powder.
Yeah. And I can let Trevor kind of geek out on the science. I'll just give you the baseline for why we did it this way. We all used powders. I won't name any brands. Like some of them are good, some of them are just okay. A lot of them have too much sugar in them, which isn't great for you when you're putting out real hard. That can actually make you have all kinds of stomach issues. But going the liquid route, a big part of that was we all hunt and we all wear bladders, and you cannot put powder into a bladder. So you're just drinking basically the crappiest water on earth, whatever you could bring up in jerry cans. And we were like, what if we could put electrolytes in our bladders and not have to, have a bunch of extra weight or messy powders, where if you use the powders, I'm sure you've seen it in like a Yeti bottle. After 2 or 3 uses, there's mold bacteria starting to grow.
Yeah, and
that
it
stuff
grows.
sticks.
The rim is just whatever color.
Yeah, so to us, we were like, if we can't fix pain points, we're not going to release it. But if we can make this better, we'll do it. And people are like, why don't you have protein? Why don't you because people are already doing that really well. Like we want to innovate or not do it.
Right.
So that was the reason behind the liquid. And the reason we went to 500 milligrams sodium versus 1,000 is the average person does not need that. That's for elite athletes that are putting out like crazy. So yeah, if you're hunting with a psycho like this in Hawaii and he's doing 15 miles a day and you're trying to keep up, you'll go through 2 or 3 of these, but most people can get by with 1 per workout.
Healy kept up just fine.
Healy's and all, Healy and Nick are like the worst 3 people to hunt with. And they always give me the biggest pack and then make fun of me because I can't keep up.
That's awesome. They got to slow you down.
They're
You're
speed
looking
goats.
at it wrong.
They're speed
They're
goats.
trying to slow you down. That's why you get the bigger pack.
Yeah, they're speed goats.
I felt bad for Justin one of those days because he was with Healy and I both, and he's like, "Oh,
Nick admitted that so Sean Black from Black Coals, who does all of our content and media with his partner Asher, Sean was paired up with Nick for a full day hunt in Maui. And Nick admitted that he was like, I was not interested in shooting a deer. I led him on a death march. I just went up and down the mountain like 25 times. And then he was like, can we get a ride back to camp? And Nick goes, we can walk. It's like 5 miles. So I think they did like 15 and a half miles in a day.
That poor guy.
Oh,
and,
my heck.
and Sean looked whooped. But yeah, the hydration, I mean, that's a staple, right? If you're exercising, you need hydration. The same thing, reason we did the sunscreen is if we're encouraging you to be outside all day, sunburn is a really good way to get dehydrated. So we should offer you something to protect your skin. But, as far as the high level athletes, the electrolytes, you hear about people that just chug water and they don't. This happened in the military all the time. They'd make you drink 50 canteens of water and you'd see somebody like die. And they're like, yeah, they were overhydrated with water, but there was no effective electrolytes or minerals. So it's not distributing the bloodstream. It's just like bloating your stomach and flooding your organs.
Yep. And that's why you end up seeing guys taking salt pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what we call salt pills.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. So it's been very well received. I think the flavor profiles have improved. The delivery system, switching to the stick that you can put into any size opening. That was another pain point with powders. Was how do I get this into a regular plastic bottle of water? So we tried to think of everything that sucked about the other ones and fixed it.
And you fixed even from the first iteration because I think I had some of
the rectangle packs,
the beta product. Well, the
ketchup packets.
I think I had the first, some of the first runs of those the ones that would
the crystals.
They kind of crystallized.
That's what's so hard about this. We're shoving so much stuff into like 7 milliliters of water.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to spin it so hard and fast and for so long to keep it from dropping out of solution.
So how long is that? How long will that last?
It's proprietary. It lasts 3 years.
I've had that stuff.
That's what I'm saying is if I buy it and I don't use...
They stamp it 3 years. I'm sure it lasts longer than that, but
If you haven't ran out of it in 3 years, you're not hydrating properly,
exactly.
right? So
nothing we make is meant to stick on your shelf.
Right.
This is a subscribable...
I'm talking like if I go to like for this year, I'm going to Alaska on a moose hunt with my son for 3 weeks. So we're going to bring this along. That was my question. Is it 3 weeks? Is it going to separate or
bring a
30
pack?
Good?
Yep.
I use stuff from last year on hunting stuff.
Perfect.
The next year.
You know what else is great? You can put it in hot. You can put it in cold, and it doesn't clump. With powder, it almost has to be room temp or hot. But if you put it in cold water, it clumps and doesn't.
Yep.
So it fixes a ton of pain points. And that was the ultimate testimonial was when Cole Kramer said, I want to join Protekt because I want to have this for my clients.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that means a lot because those guys get their ass. That's Mark Healy said they guided Mark Healy on a mountain goat hunt, and he said that is the hardest hunt I've ever done in my life.
Hey, he asked for it.
That's because he had those two.
But still, I mean, that's saying so. That guy's he's an animal, and he was like that. That was the first time I ever wanted to tap out.
That was a long hunt. That was a long hunt.
Sloaner jams.
Sloaner just
that was the best Sloaner jams he ever
Sloan.
did.
Well, yeah, is that the hunt Sloan was on then? Okay.
And Lyle. Yeah, that was the one where he just about killed Sloan.
Didn't you guys have at one point? It wasn't a goat. You guys, I think it was a nanny, but weren't they just feet away from the hunter?
Yeah, didn't Healy get within?
No, it was.
There were 3 of you that were close, I thought.
Yeah, so it was I think it was Sam Everett. No, Sam. Yeah, it was Sam, and then Cole and Mark were right. The goats were coming right over the ridgeline.
Yeah.
And then I was backed up with, I can't remember who. I think Lyle was right next to me.
Gotcha.
And then he ended up taking a shot after on another goat. But they came right over the ridge. They must have been 5 or 6 feet from us.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, if you haven't experienced being that close to a large game animal that doesn't know you're there and then finds out you're there, it's very scary and really cool all at the same time.
It's intimidating for sure.
Especially when it's a 250-pound, 300-pound mountain goat.
Right.
That has a 1 and a 0 as a brain.
I'm nowhere near as experienced a hunter as anybody in this room, but my first one was in Hawaii this year. They have these like old volcanic rock walls that are still all over the property. And I was glassing a big buck this way, and as I panned, I saw antlers coming right in, and I laid down behind this wall, and this thing was like sniffing through a hole in the wall like this far. I was blown away.
Did you punch him in the nose?
It ended up getting it. I mean, he luckily walked like 10 feet and turned broadside, so
that's awesome.
It worked out. But I was laying on my back trying to get an arrow knocked, and this thing's looking like, what's that noise? It was intimidating.
It's fun.
Pretty big one.
It is fun. I love, except with bears. I don't like being that close with bears because I've had that experience and I don't like it. I walked over the ridge on one.
That's a special experience.
Yeah, we.
That's like.
Yeah, well, and that's when you find out if you're going to freeze or not freeze.
Yeah.
But we walked over the ridge on two twins. This is years ago. And, we couldn't have been but 5 yards because it was a steep ridge. We popped over there. They start stomping the ground, barking and clapping their jaws, and they'd run off and then do it again, run off, do it again. And I'm just sitting there with my gun like, okay, how's this going to go down? Yeah.
But see, specifically to hunting, this lineup of stuff was built to kind of keep you. Nick always says, if I show up at 70 to 80%, that's really good, and I can do whatever I'm there to do. And most people show up at about 40 or 50. They might not be aware of it, but most of us are showing up 40, 50% of what we're capable of because we're not sleeping right and we're dehydrated.
Yeah. Interesting. So we've talked about that. The other one I'm interested in is the immunity side. Yep. I'd like to talk about that a little bit.
So re-released it. We had an initial iteration of this.
I remember that.
It wasn't super stable, and we didn't know why. So it had a 2-year shelf life, and then we started getting customers saying like, "Hey, the color is changing." We found out it was the vitamin C reacting with the citrus acid. So we've completely reformulated. Flavors are way better, and we were able to add. I don't think we had vitamin D or echinacea in the first one. So tons of antioxidant properties. This is like my go-to when which I travel all the time. You travel all the time. You travel. I can't tell you how many times I've sat next to sick kids and I'm like, cool, I'm going to be sick for a week. I've lived on a plane for the last 2 years. We've had this internally for 6 months. We've been testing it to make sure it's good to go. And I have not been sick all year.
Yeah, and the flavor profiles are great. I can attest to that, having seen a lot of the iterations from nearer the beginning, the last couple of years.
Yep.
The flavors are much more natural tasting, and they're not as stiff. I don't know. That's the best way to describe it. They were like
natural flavors. Natural flavors is like a dirty word because you can hide behind that in the food industry. Like that's one of the number one questions we get is like, what does it mean, natural flavors? Ours is the oil and essence of whatever fruit. So, but you can definitely sneak stuff in. We source everything in the States. It's batch checked. We make it here. We tour our own facilities. We have an employee there for every run. And a big part of that was just, Nick, I think, has gone through more supplements and tested more things than anybody I know. And he was like, did you know, 90% of stuff coming from China has like heavy metals or rat shit or, the BCAA, like 90%, I think it's higher. I think it's like 97% of BCAAs on the market. It's made from duck feathers. And it's terrible for your gastrointestinal.
Really?
So ours are made from the plant-sourced BCAAs, and
I take those all the time.
They're phenomenal. Like I would go for runs, and when we got the first iterations of those, when I would normally hit a wall, it was gone. Muscle fatigue, happened way later in the game. So Nick was like super instrumental in, we had the concepts dialed, but he knew which ingredients are going to be best. Yeah. And we made a commitment that
and from where
it's a premium product and we're not going to be a value brand. We're not going to try to do a shitty job to give a better price point. This is for people who really want to see improvement.
Yeah. Now, is immunity something you take daily or is this just when you are...
I do.
It's a daily thing. Okay.
Well, I mean, the ingredients in this, if you took 20 of these, your body would absorb everything it needs and you would just piss the rest out.
Right.
So it will not hurt you.
Like overdoing vitamin C, for example.
Like there's nothing in there that you can, in the amounts that are in here, you probably couldn't take enough to really screw yourself up. I mean, vitamin D might be the only one that would be even close just because it's a hormone.
Yep.
But the amount that's on there, it's 5 milligrams, is next to nothing.
All it does is activate your immune system.
You'd need a lot, like
gotcha. Okay.
the bottle full to really.
Because I'm gonna guess, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm gonna guess I'm more like I'm the majority out there, right? I don't understand the sciences behind it. I don't study it. I just more or less, it's like, hey, try this. It worked for me type of guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And so then I'm going to try it, right? Yep. And then if it works for me, I'm in good shape. So I don't understand the kind of like what Trevor's doing here. This guy understands what's going on with the product, what's in it, the ingredients. That's not me.
But that's almost nobody, right? Yeah. And I've gotten to know Nick so well because, Nick is also my brother-in-law. We're married to twin sisters. So getting to see the level
That
of
has its own
research.
jokes, right?
Yeah, for sure. But getting to see the level of research he does before he'll test something, that rubbed off on me, and I was like, I'm you. I was the guy who never cared. It was all word of mouth. And I realized like that's the average consumer for us too. So we want to make it, we want to simplify it and give them something that, okay, I feel better. I trust this. I can read the ingredients. I know what everything is. There's no weird chemical sounding things on there. It's made in America. We try to take the risk out of it, and you don't need to know why it works if you don't want to, but we have that education available if you want to see how they work together. You know, during the pandemic, when everybody was staying inside all day, everybody became vitamin D deficient, which is why we put it in there. That's a huge immune system booster. You don't need a lot of it, but nobody was getting sunlight. That's the only natural way to get it without supplementing. So little things like that. Even in our resilient tincture, if you take vitamin D in the morning, it tells your brain to start making more melatonin so that by the time you go to sleep at night, so that little tincture that you take in the morning, it works with rest.
Yep.
We tried to make something where if you use every one of our products, you're going to feel amazing. But even if you only use 3 of them, it still compounds on each other.
Yeah. Okay.
So you don't have to buy everything, but if you did, it would all work well together. It works in symphony.
Yep.
That's awesome. The sunscreen, we didn't really hit on that. So I was hunting with Sloan and Mark Carter here in Utah for elk a few years ago. And, you know, it's snow covered, clear blue skies, sun's just cooking. So you're getting beat on top and you're getting beat from the snow too. And Mark's like, oh, have you guys ever heard of Protekt? No. Hey, you need this. And it was the
little
lip
stick
balm.
Yeah.
And then he's like, can you put this on your nose, your ears, whatever? And it was the little stick of the sunscreen.
Yeah.
But it was tan. It was like base.
Tinted.
Yep.
Right? It was tinted. And I'm like, what? Is that going to look like I'm wearing makeup? He's like, yes. And it's going to get rid of any reflection in your face too. So we were playing with it a little bit, and man, it does.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was designed for that.
It gets rid of the reflection. It works.
That was Mark Healy. We test all our sunscreen with him because he's a ginger and he lives in Hawaii. So great test pilot.
And he surfs.
Yeah, he's in the water all day.
Yeah.
So we got a ton of feedback from him and another team rider, Nathan Florence, who's also fair skinned, lives on the North Shore. And Mark was like, hey, if we did a tinted one with kind of a matte, that would be great for hunting because Mark's a super good hunter, and he's always like, look, it's reflections and big white bright spots. So if you can tone that down a little bit, it's helpful. So a lot of thought went into even the size of it to be able to throw it in kit or throw it in a backpack. It doesn't take. You can throw it in your car, and it's always there. They don't melt. But sunscreen was something Nick and I had learned how to do at a previous venture. So we were like, hey, there's a better way to do this. There's much cleaner ingredients. I mean, that is everything in there is like organic or zinc. There's nothing on. I mean, it is so clean. It's basically diaper paste. You know, like it's what you put on a baby to prevent rashes. So it's really good for your skin.
Which essentially is
So
why
could you use it if you got a little river bottom?
I have.
Just like, uh-oh.
I did in Hawaii. Yeah,
Did you?
Yeah, we
really?
used
Awesome.
we used those sticks for the crotch rod.
little rash.
Yeah, but I mean, zinc is what they use for burn victims, rashes, all that stuff. So it comes in a pinch. If somebody did get like really sunburned or got like campfire burn, you could use that to.
And it's not going to lock in the heat and make it feel horrible. And
Nope. No.
Well, and that ingredient list is part of why that sunscreen is the only one that I will even think about touching because I've been like an anti-sunscreen Nazi for
Have you? Okay.
decades. Oh, yeah.
The chemical actives are endocrine disruptors.
It's really bad. So, like, for me, hunting, just being outside when I run, climbing, doesn't matter. I'm a long sleeve hoodie guy and hats.
Yeah.
Have been for a really long time, even when I was in the SEAL team. So I'm like, no, that stuff's poison. I don't want that on me. Like I will be a little warm in a long sleeve shirt and not put that poison on me. Regardless of how bad it is for the environment, like not even touching that side of this whole equation.
Just for your body itself.
So bad for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like if you want to put anything on you, just put like, lifeguard zinc.
Yeah.
I love what
That was where I
Mark,
started.
when we said we were going to do it, Mark was, as soon as we got the first investor in to kind of kick the company off, I called Mark, and he was like, I want a sunscreen that works for me, but I'm willing to put it on my newborn daughter.
Yeah.
That's the mark you have to hit. And so we probably worked on that for 8 months and came up with that formula. But it's been really popular. I love the sticks, super convenient. We have a new SPF 50 line launching in about maybe a week or 2 weeks. So we have a spray zinc. And
just in time for him to get to Spring Bear.
Well, Healy's been testing it all winter, and he's like, this stuff is legit. He said, I was worried because it goes on so easy for a mineral. Usually they're kind of thick and oily.
Yeah, they are.
He said it goes on like a lotion, so I was afraid it would come off. But he's been surfing all winter. He's like, I haven't gotten a single burn. This is the best stuff we've got. So excited to get that out.
Monica, that's my wife, business partner, runs registration. We got some of the sticks in Texas last year, and she's like, do you think it's okay if I set a few of these aside? And I'm like, yeah. And she used it religiously.
Yeah.
She had skin cancer, not where you just go in and get a mole shaved off or something, but they had to go in, remove some lymph nodes, cut a steak out of her leg.
Yeah.
And so she's very, very cautious.
Yep.
And so she's like, you think I can use it? She loves it.
We get people all the time.
Loves it.
They're like, I found you because my doctor told me the ingredients that are safe. And when I Googled that, it pulled up your sunscreen.
This was it. That's awesome.
Yeah, which is cool to hear.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, Carter, we should, if we have time, I'll touch on Carter. We met him at OR here like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Healy had a Yeti film and Carter had a Yeti film. And so we were here for Healy, and we watched Mark Carter's film. And I'll admit, like, Nick and I don't snowboard. Like, I had no idea who Mark Carter was. Mm-hmm. Nick knew, I believe it was Nick that knew that Mark Carter, the cousin of Mark, was a SEAL who was KIA.
Yep.
He was a dam neck SEAL. Yep. And so Nick and I, after the film, we were so moved by, Mark's whole life and his message and like his purpose. And I was like, dude, we got to meet that guy. And Healy was like, yeah, come on, let's go say what's up. We missed him that night. The next day at the show, he was hanging out at the Yeti booth. And we literally were just like, hey, man, we wanted to say thanks to your family, for the sacrifice. And he was like, oh, what do you guys do? And all we had was a face stick. Like nothing else had happened yet. It was in inception point. And
this is what we do.
No, dude, we didn't even have samples. Like that's how pathetic.
Perfect.
We were just here for the film.
Do you have one?
But here,
no, it's going to be a thing.
Here's the coolest thing about Mark Carter. Healy, he knew Healy, and Healy's like, this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. It's the best people on earth that we're working with. And Carter was like, count me in, put me on the team, and just give me whatever you have when you get it, and I'll rep it. And it was just based on like a simple interaction and like a small community where, certain people vouch for you or vouch for somebody else. Like Mark Carter says, oh, Tim, you got to link up with Sean. I'm going to link up with you.
Right.
Because Mark Carter has never put me in front of a bad person.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see how many people Carter connected to this brand. We were not paying him, and we did not have anything to give him. And he was like, you got to meet these guys. They're awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure we covered that today because
I
he
think
was
when
supposed
I
to
met
be
him,
here.
he even said, he's like, look, dude, I'm not trying to push this on you. I have no game.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you this stuff works.
He does now. We rectified that, so I don't want people to think we're assholes using people. But Carter had no incentive to tell anybody about us, and he probably connected us to some of the best people we work with.
Yeah.
Shit, I got a box sent because Mark was like, you got to try this stuff. I know that you're like all about this human performance shit. Like, give it a go and let me know what you think.
Well, I mean, think about
and then
that.
you guys sent a box, and I'm like, this shit works. And I think I don't know who I talked to. It could have been you, where I'm like, yeah, this is good, but like it turns into crystals, and I don't, like the packaging's great, but I don't know about this and this.
Yeah,
and this.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep. We were constantly fixing. But yeah, you think about Carter introduces us to Trevor. Trevor starts talking about it at Black Rifle. Baker gets interested and, eventually invests, brings in a bunch of other and now we have this little powerhouse team. A lot of it stems from Mark Healy and Mark Carter's direct introductions to just really good people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice when you can trust your partners to open their Rolodex and you're not going to get burnt and the products work.
Right.
We don't ever, if somebody tries our product, they're going to come back for more or try something else.
Yeah.
We don't get, it's rare we get a complaint, and it's typically like, I don't like this flavor, and we'll exchange it for them.
Gotcha.
Like that happens. Not everybody likes pina colada.
Oh, well.
Who doesn't like pina colada?
I'll tell you what, you know what's weird? I don't like our pineapple coconut if I'm just sitting here with you, but on a hunt when I'm like completely gassed out, that's the best thing on earth. I don't know why.
Hey, listen, I've drank some pretty nasty water hunting, and it tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's weird how
it's got moss and rocks in it.
It's like the
depends on where
lemonade.
I'm
You know,
at.
like when you're really dehydrated, the lemonade tastes better. But when I'm just sitting in a room, watermelon is my favorite by far.
Yeah.
It's just weird how when you're really
watermelon
tapped
in general is a better tasting anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys probably don't eat candy, but if I do, a watermelon, it's like Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah.
I won't eat any other
Dude,
flavor,
our watermelon,
just watermelon.
I won't be humble at all. The watermelon, that watermelon hydration we make is the best electrolyte on the market. Like I challenge, I would put it up against anybody's flavors.
I don't know. I like the lemonade, but that's fine.
I've always
I
lemonade's
think
my
lemonade is the only one I've tried.
It's just my jam.
But watermelon, I think, is going to be the next move.
It's good.
It's getting some rave reviews.
It is really good.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk real quick on you guys are going to be with us at Total Archery Challenge
super
throughout
pumped.
the tour.
The whole tour.
Yeah, we're super pumped too. And I just kind of want to bring up the point that everyone listening to this and anyone attending really should take the time and go pay a visit to the booth.
Yeah, come interact. We love
because
meeting.
if they have any questions on it, you're there to give them some answers. Every time I've dealt with you guys or any one of your users, let's say, I don't even want to say ambassador because some of them are just guys that are using the product, right? Yeah, evangelists. There you go. It has always been positive interaction. I love the product, but anytime I've had interaction with the company, I love the guys at the company. There's so much that goes into that.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience with you guys. You know, you and I have met a few times over the last 2 years or whatever. And so I've got to use the product a little bit. I think my wife is, Monica, she's probably an even better evangelist because she uses the product a lot on the sunscreen side. But people need to step in the booth. They need to ask questions, gain an understanding of the product, and then pick some up and let them know try it for themselves. Yeah,
it's there's no stupid questions. I've learned so much over the last 3 years, kind of seeing how the sausage is made, and like I have people like Nick and Healy and Trevor at my fingertips, so I kind of took it for granted for years that I could just ask them. But the more I learn, the more interested I get in why does this work? Why do I feel better? And I love sharing that with people because I was not like the number one athlete. Yeah, I was the guy that kind of, if I wanted to make a team, I had to work harder. I wasn't going to get there because of natural talent. And I think Healy and I share that in common. Healy would describe himself as I just outworked my peers. Like I was never the best. So this has been cool. It really is a performance enhancer. And that term gets thrown around real loose with stuff that doesn't do anything.
Right.
So
100%.
I say whether you are, a Trevor Thompson who's trying to get that extra percentage point out of your, potential, or you spent the last 2 years on the couch and you're thinking about getting into hunting, this will improve everything you do. And a lot of times, you meet tons of new hunters. We meet tons of new hunters, and they're intimidated about, I want to do an elk hunt, but I'm not sure I can make it.
Right.
And we tell them, just do, get up and do. You're not going to fix it today. You have to form a routine, right? We talk about strong roots begin with strong routines.
Yeah.
Simple, not easy, right?
Well, and Cole and I have had, Cole specifically has told clients that are worried about, mountain goat hunts. It's like, hey, I'm coming from Nebraska. I don't have anywhere to really train for this. What are we going to be doing? And it's habit forming and consistency and just a little bit in the tank. That's all you really need. Because the rest of it, you'll get yourself there.
Right.
And he's told people, and I've heard him tell people, hey, just go do stairs for an hour every single day. This is what you need to do. It's something simple. And then when you get out here, we'll figure it out. It's okay.
But so often, and I'm guilty of, none of us is perfect. When you skip a workout, it's typically because you feel like shit. I stayed up too
I've been
late.
skipping them for 45 years.
Right. That's why we all have. And so, Trevor doesn't, but you go to bed late.
That's dumb.
You have a drink too close to bedtime or multiple. When you wake up at 6 o'clock, your brain is saying you're not in condition to go do something hard. That would be the best thing you could do, but you're not going to do it. And so what we tell people that are like, I don't know where to begin, like, we'll start with feeling good.
Yeah.
Go for a walk after you get a good night's sleep. Start there. The endorphins, the chemicals that your body naturally, I will tell you, my wife can tell when I worked out and when I didn't, because she's like, your temper and your ability to put up with bullshit goes away by like 2 p.m. when you don't work out in the morning, and you're annoyingly positive and optimistic until 6 p.m. when you do. So we tell people a lot of the beginning phase starts with feeling good.
It's just habit forming. Like, you need to form consistent good habits, and part of that is just making those choices. And when you start making those choices, then you'll do it all the time.
Your body craves it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, last night, like, or yesterday, I went skiing, and then I fell asleep because I was tired just from the day, being outside in the sun and skiing around. But I knew I still needed to do something. That's me personally. So I got on the assault bike for a half hour before I went out to dinner with these guys.
Yeah, it's why people are so depressed in the beginning of January, because you take 2 weeks off, you let everything go,
you take off,
and you're like, why do I feel like shit? It's like, well, because you came back to a shitstorm at work. Everybody's getting back in the swing. And you realize, like, I completely let all my healthy habits go, and you're dreading getting back on the horse.
Yeah. Well, you let all your healthy choices go.
Correct.
Because it's a daily choice to create those consistent habits, and the consistency is more important than anything else. Like, if you're only getting 6 hours of sleep, but they're good every night, that's better than getting 8 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. That's not as good as getting a consistent amount of good sleep or a consistent workout. Like, when people ask me, where do I start to, be healthier? I'm like, okay, fix your sleep, whatever the hell that means to you. And then I want you to do 30 minutes of some sort of cardiovascular workout 4 to 5 times a week, period. I don't care how hard it is. That's all you need. Start there for 6 months and your life's going to change.
Yeah, I had like I would call it a lower back kind of sciatic injury for a long time. And Trevor got to the point where he had an alarm set to check in and make sure I did my mobility work every day. And
like, for real, like, I had he would check in with Tim.
He'd be like, "Did you do it?"
And you're like, "Yeah."
Like, yeah, asshole.
But
did you ever feel like you had to lie?
No,
like, I better tell him no. I don't want to hear it.
The young me would lie. The new me has been like, I'm a lot less insecure.
Well, there's no progress in not being honest.
Yeah,
right?
and you and I, our travel schedule, like, you can have lapses. And so what we kind of promote is just move a little bit every day. Use some form of electrolyte to kind of replenish. If it's not ours, we can recommend others. I think ours are the easiest ones to use, but
it can be as easy as just salt.
Yeah, adding salt.
Straight up salt.
Lemon.
Like, I did that for a while. I did just salt and lemon juice in water, because there's a bunch of products on the market that have a whole bunch of carbohydrates and sugar that I didn't want to be taking. Well, okay, what's the easiest means to make this happen for me? And do that.
And that's going to help a lot with, say, so for me, when I'm in Alaska every year, we're hunting moose or whatever, and packing out a moose, quite honestly, to me, it's probably the hardest workout.
It's insane.
Hardest job I've ever had is packing out moose. Now, we have a rule that if we're not a mile and a half within that thing being able to be thrown on a boat or picked up by a plane, then we're too far. Like, once you hit 2 miles, plus 2 miles, whatever, packing those out, it's
absurd.
Yeah. But I would suffer with cramping big time. We're done. I'm laying in my bed and I start to cramp up.
And that's
lower
salt.
back. Yeah, exactly.
It's salt.
So it's it's not hydrating properly. It's not like I didn't drink enough water.
Right.
Yeah.
I just was not hydrating properly to keep that at bay.
Well, and it's not pre-hydrating properly. So, for instance, I wake up in the morning and I weigh myself because I want to see how much water weight I lost during the evening. Usually, you'll lose 6 to 12 ounces of weight yourself. So, almost a pound you can lose overnight just by breathing and perspirating.
Okay.
So, as you're sleeping, which means what? You need that back in your body. Oftentimes, you should really be taking about, a quarter in ounces, like a quarter of your body weight in ounces of water. So, like, I'll drink like 40 ounces of water in the morning with some hydration in there to jumpstart my system. And then I'm pre-hydrating for the day and the effort to come.
also great for digestion.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, hydration affects your brain.
I don't do that. I'm going to start trying that. I don't.
Drink one of these in the morning with some hydration. Like literally just one of those in the morning before you do coffee, eat, whatever else. Mm-hmm. You're going to be shocked at what happens in 2 weeks when your body really is used to it and hydrated all the time.
We're going to revisit this because I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it was cathartic to hear. Huberman did like a science-based podcast about why that's effective. Yeah. And so we all prescribe to that. As soon as you wake up, drink at least 32 ounces of water. Yep. It actually gets your digestive stuff going faster. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to work out till I get my morning bowel movement. This jumpstarts all that. And then getting sunlight, maybe even exercising before the sun comes up. I don't have my coffee till after the morning workout, and I feel like it works way better and lasts way longer. Mm-hmm. And now hearing the Huberman podcast, it's like, oh, here's all the science as to why that is correct.
And there's like benefits for proprioception ability, memory, athletic ability.
Yeah, recall's a big one.
Recall's a really big one.
That's what I need.
For drinking that water and doing workouts in the morning.
Really? Mm-hmm.
So awesome. These are all things.
Granted, I work out in the evening, but whatever.
It's kind of cool because this stuff came from Nick's desire to perform well under combat stress is when he started thinking about this. But the chronic stress of entrepreneurship, running a large business,
just life.
Yeah, life in general. I mean, you don't even have to be the head of a big business. You can be struggling to support a family of 5. Yep. That kind of stress and weight on you affects your ability to think clearly, your ability to perform, and
your ability to be an asset to other people.
Yeah.
Like and whether that's a physical, mental, emotional asset, like maybe somebody's leaning on you for emotional health.
Look at the evolution of your SEAL teams, like
for real,
going from guys that everybody looked like Jocko with huge bench. Yeah, and then all my friends that were SEALs, by the time they were getting out, they were like, dude, everything's about mental performance now.
Yeah.
Like everybody's in shape. We don't need to worry about a SEAL being in shape. So let's focus the mental.
They can all run 5Ks. Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
But are you going to perform under duress? Are you a mess emotionally? Are you some sort of like hazard when you go out at night?
Yep. Yeah. But the idea that that's unique to veterans is false. Mm-hmm. Like every human needs to perform well. You know,
like in the guiding community, people are depending on you because they've never been there. I mean, how many guys show up and they just look like gypsy camp? It's not their fault.
Yep.
Because that guy's never been to the Alaskan Peninsula.
Yep.
When you tell them bring 2 pairs of rain gear because it's going to rain every damn day and all your shit's going to be wet. And they're like, you're crazy. Then they get there and they're like, what is going on? Like,
not to mention
we're here to help.
And when you're wet all the time, that is, if you're not you're used to it. You hunt there, you do that. That's what you do. But when you have a client in there and you're wet,
it'll break them down
constantly. It does.
And then they get extra broken down when they see Cole and I taking naps in the rain.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
Something wrong with those two.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, seeing the footage from Healy's hunt up there and then watching what him and Cole do, I'm like, that's why I use Sitka, is because I'm like, well, that looks like the most miserable shit on earth, and it works. So
I've never hunted the peninsula or Kodiak or any of the archipelago there around Kodiak, but I'm up on the mainland hunting, and it is interesting. And that's why I think maybe we'll touch on this a little bit. You guys have talked about it, but I just want to bring it up as, just a regular Joe. That's what I consider myself.
Yeah.
I don't.
Me too.
I don't watch my diet necessarily. I know I look like the peak performing male species here, but I don't have a workout schedule. My wife, she has to work out the crazy. Like she has a schedule and she has to maintain it. Because she's similar to you, right?
Yep.
If she doesn't, then you see that attitude change.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. So when I hear all this stuff you guys are sharing, and I'm thinking, we have a lot of people that come from that same lifestyle as me, that I'm like, well, just taking this stuff and then trying to do these just few things is going to make a huge difference in my preparation for whatever. For us, people always say, how can I prepare for TAC? Well, now we need to, you and I are going to talk much more after this and kind of come up with some cool ways to prepare with the science of being healthier.
And you could probably give people like a 2-week out game plan. Like, hey, do this and this and this, especially if you're coming to, say, Big Sky or somewhere in Utah or like any of these places that are above a certain altitude, the places out in Colorado. Like, there are ways to tell them, hey, you're 2 weeks out, do this and this and this, and take this kind of like preparation and take these supplements if you can or want to, and that'll really help you be ready for what's going to happen that weekend.
That's the beauty of this. Like, truthfully, what's the one way to ensure you're going to have a bad tack? Don't get any sleep and show up dehydrated.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing you can do when you're shooting a bow on like tough shots.
Right.
Because you're not concentrating, you're shaky.
And drinking too much the night before.
Yeah, at altitude.
Which is
like
liquor.
You forget.
A thing that happens.
You forget. I am not innocent of that. The last Big Sky trip was a absolute shit show, and I didn't even shoot the course because Andy Arabito was with us, and tied one on. But if you're going to shoot tack and you want to have a good time, taking a rest the night before the shoot and bringing a couple hydrations, you're going to be fine. Like it'll get rid of the shakes. It'll get rid of the cramping. You won't feel, a lot of people who come from sea level up to altitude, they get like the heart palpitation. It almost feels like you're stressed out a little bit because you're just breathing a little heavier. Those are the things that ruin shots.
Yeah.
Breath work and poor sleep. So
and doing that in an area that is essentially no consequence.
Or being really sunburnt.
Like it's somewhere that's like a no consequence, like attack, right?
Right.
Like the only consequence is,
Bust an arrow.
Bummer, like I bust an arrow, or I feel like maybe I'm
tired.
I wasted some money being here
Bruised ego.
because I screwed up, and not preparing for it.
Yes.
But if you prepare for it, then you can look at that. You can go, okay, so I have a high country mule deer hunt coming up that I've been waiting for.
My skill set is dialed.
I have an elk hunt coming up, or even like I'm going to sit in a stand for 10 days in a row looking for this single whitetail that I need to get. Like, he's my target. Well, okay, this is really going to help because you're going to stay concentrated. You're going to be up. You're going to be ready. And you'll be able to get that target animal or have the experience that you hope you're going to have on that hunt, which is why you're probably there doing attack, because you're prepping for something later.
Exactly.
That's the reason they're going on when they're going on. There isn't a lot of stuff in season, so that now in the fall, when you're going after all those animals that all you guys are going to go after, you are freaking ready, and you had something that you can look back on and go, that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you never want or you never do kill an animal, archery is such a good thing for
really
life.
is.
Yeah,
like
it is.
I'm way too ADHD to meditate. I've tried. I cannot do it. Archery is the closest thing I've ever gotten to that.
That's a great segue, because to kind of close out our podcast, one of the things we like to ask the people we're speaking with is, the title of the podcast is Life, It's Better with a Bow. The reason we did it that way, life ... So the meaning of that is life. I'm going to pause and think about this a little bit. You know what? Life is better with a bow. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we kind of want to close out with, is asking you guys, how has archery made life better for you? And I think you hit on it a little bit, but why don't you just share with us a little bit if you don't mind?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're rewriting our brand Bible at Protekt, and one of the phrases that we wanted to rally around is life's greatest memories come through shared suffering. And I know Trevor knows that better than I, because he went through buds. But we talk about archery can be it can be very tough, and I'm talking like sitting in a tree stand, freezing your ass off and not seeing something, or walking 20 miles a day and, missing a shot. Like it can break your heart. But I have never left a rifle hunt feeling anywhere near what I feel after an archery hunt, successful or not. So for me, it's I really want to do more. I consider myself an amateur. Don't ask me for shooting tips, but I know that when I go on those kind of grinded out hunts with my friends, those are the most fun, and those are the ones I remember every little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And Trevor, for you?
It's given me the opportunity to meet a lot of people that I don't think I ever would have met, and to be involved in something like hunting that for me now has become a huge part of my life, hunting and guiding, because I had no interest in it, following the SEAL teams, because I just didn't have an understanding of the community or the culture, because I'm from Los Angeles, and that's no ding on my parents, my grandparents, but it just wasn't a thing out there for us.
Yep.
And so after being in the SEAL teams, I'm like, I don't really, that doesn't seem entertaining or fun, or I didn't get it. And then I got pulled into archery, and I'm like, this is totally different. And now I'm at the point where this last season I shot a cow elk alone with a longbow.
That's awesome. He's in the top 1%.
He also got an axis deer.
Oh yeah, I
this
shot
year,
an
which
axis
is
doe with my longbow.
nuts because there was like 500.
That was hilarious because I brought that thing out and everybody's like, yeah, haha, funny moron, right? And John Hart was the only one where he's like, you'll make it happen. I get out there and I hit that thing and I will remember that till the day I die. Which was like Sean Black was like walking up underneath me kind of, and I was up on a little bit of a rise and I saw this doe out there and I'm like, all right, cool. I think she's about 30. And like, let me check. Gave it a little laser and okay, cool. 31. Got it. Sean's over here and I'm like, I got one. And I will remember releasing that arrow and watching that flight because a 650 grain longbow arrow, like that thing does not go very fast.
Right.
That bitch is going 150 feet a second. Like,
right.
Like I'm watching this thing. I'm like, oh my God, I did it. It's going to happen. I just hammered her. And being able to experience that with Sean, and he's like, did it work? I'm like, she did a cartwheel. They don't do gymnastics. It's good. But those experiences and being able to then like, now I'm relating that with you guys.
The people,
and you guys are now having the same sort of like, oh, I had a similar experience doing this or that. And like that kind of shared experience is so special.
Yeah.
And even if you never shoot an animal.
Yep.
That's what I mean.
If you can go to attack and like, I've seen 14-year-old kids take a shot that their dad just missed, and it's a 100-yard shot on a mountain goat target, and they hammer it, and that kid is like, I did it! It's like, yes, you did!
Yep.
Yeah,
that is incredible. And
it really is.
There's nothing quite like that experience.
So and not ever having to go to a meat store.
Nope.
Ever.
Yeah.
That's a nice perk.
It is a nice perk. It is. So, well, I appreciate you guys being on here. We're certainly excited to have Protekt on.
We're fired up.
For the podcast. I think we'll probably revisit this again, and it'd be nice to have you on, Trevor, too, as we talk more on like just prepping. Not a lot of people ask, hey, how do I prep for TAC? But like you mentioned earlier, preparing for TAC or preparing for a hunt or preparing for life in general, just because it brings its own stresses.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you guys designed this out of a need to help with stress in the field, whereas, I didn't serve. But I still have my own stresses I need to deal with, and you never know anyone's circumstance. So just kind of running through that whole program, I think would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's out there, and that's fine, but we're going to take it more on a focused area where we'll start off on how it's going to help with you preparing for a total archery challenge or an upcoming hunt, but then also how it's helped in life. But what we're going to do is my wife and I, we're going to start using more of this product so that when we revisit this, we can say, okay, Monica works out every day. She has a strict schedule she follows. She eats healthy, does all the things that I don't. I'm the other guy. And now we're going to see how I can shift into this where maybe I'm not going to commit to this regiment my wife does, but I'm going to give some effort to it, and I'm going to start trying to sleep more and getting the right hydration done properly. You know what I mean? So we can revisit it.
There's some super affordable ways to measure that too. You know, like whether it's a Garmin or an Oura ring. People say Garmin's cost too much. I'm like, it's a good investment to know where you stand every day. I love having that data, but it's a really easy way to measure. Like if you're getting good sleep, chances are 80% of other stuff is going to be fixed just through hydrating properly. That's what I'm excited to try. Yeah. Your whole system runs on water. Your brain runs on water. That's your brain's fuel. Your digestive system runs on water. Like it's insane how if you're properly hydrated, you're at 80% capacity right there. And what is it? 43% of Americans, I think. I'll have to double check. I think it's 43 are chronically dehydrated. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And I mean, when we were doing our
that's probably me.
When we were doing our long dives, their mark for this, we need to start watching you, and this might be dangerous, is post dive. If we had lost more than 10% of our body weight, 10% of our body weight which would be water weight, right? So that shows you how much water is in your system. If I can lose, 17 pounds of water. And then they're like, all right, cool. Now we need to kind of watch you and make sure nothing's fucked up. That's a big deal. You know, so that means there's a lot of water. So water is the thing that keeps you going.
It is.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the sleep is where the recovery happens. So
That
Simple.
is the test to me. But I do want to do it again, and we have plenty of time before we really get rocking. That we need to sit down and we'll speak solely on that, and we'll have a little bit of time where I'm going to dive into it and try it.
we've done unofficial trials and seen, like on average, 200% increase in deep sleep and 150% on REM.
That would make me so happy.
It's the best feeling in the world.
Yep.
My wife has always been a light sleeper, and she's getting 8 hours solid.
I mean, when I'm in Alaska, I wear earplugs at night.
Yep. Most of us do.
White
I
noise
have
is
to
great.
because-
Earplugs are great.
because I don't have an option for good white noise where I'm out there
Right,
3
yeah.
weeks. I don't want to burn my batteries because I do white noise at home because I'm an extremely light sleeper.
Super helpful.
I mean, if I hear the wind rustle, all of a sudden I'm like, is that a bear?
Could be a bear.
Yeah, or we'll share this story later. I had a bear incident that ended up being a fox pulling on my tent strings and that. So
Haven't we all?
yeah, now I wear earplugs and I'm like, he's going to have to be chewing on my foot
Yeah, right.
before I have to wake up. So, but I am excited to try it. Let's do that. The only other thing I want to tell you guys is thank you for your service.
Yeah, thanks.
I obviously I didn't get to serve, but I get to live in the greatest country there is because of those that did. So thank you for that. I'm super excited on the Black Rifle side with the things we've been able to do with the veteran adaptive shoot and just working with a bunch of veterans in general. And then again, now we get to branch out and work with you guys. And so it's a really good experience for people like me who didn't serve, but we get some really good interaction with those that did. It's created, I've always respected people who served or are serving, but I've gained a different perspective because of my relationships I've built working with all these guys. And we've had some vets work for us directly, like Patrick Booth, we call him Jackalope Pat. And so I just want to make sure you guys understand how grateful we are for it, and thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited to see what happens this summer as we go on tour, and we'll be back at it again, I don't know, right before tour starts and talk about how to prepare to get out there on the mountain, whether it's for hunting or not. And I'll have an update on my sleeping habits
Perfect.
and my ability to be healthier. So anyway.
Excited. Yeah, and thanks
you
for the
guys.
opportunity to join up.
Yeah,
You guys
we're
have
excited.
an incredible stable of brands working with you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.